Today's lesson is going to be about scale drawings and the scale factors that apply to them. So let's label this scale drawings. And our first question, scale drawing at the right shows the first floor of a house. The actual dimensions of the garage are 20 feet by 25 feet. Every angle is a right angle, so we can assume that all these rooms are rectangles. So the garage is 20 by 25. Here's the garage. Now in the drawing, it's 1 inch by 1 1/4 inch. So which represents the 20, which represents the 25? And if you said that the 1 inch is 20 feet, and this 1 1/4 inch is the 25 feet, you're correct because that's the smaller side, that's the larger side. Okay, longer side, shorter side. So this would be the only one that makes sense. Okay, so how many feet does each inch represent? So if we're looking at this one, we have 1 1/4 inches, which is 25 feet. We can do a little calculation to find the ratio, but then this one's a little easier because we don't have those fractions. We know that 1 inch is equal to 20 feet, right? So 20 feet equals 1 inch, or 1 inch equals 20 feet. And what is the scale? So we're talking about the scale factor between the drawing and the actual size. If you remember from a previous lesson, we know that scale factor is copy over original. That's how we get the ratio. If we know that the copy is smaller than the original, then something is decreasing in size. If the copy is larger than the original, then we know it's increasing in size. So in this case, the scale would be the copy is the 1 inch and the original would be the 20. So this ratio would be 1 to 20, right? And then the numerator's smaller than the denominator, so we know that it's a decrease in size when you're talking about the drawing. What are the length and width of the living room on the scale drawing? So in inches. So here's the living room. We know, first of all, that this is 2 inches, and we don't know this one, but since we know it's a rectangle, we know it's the same as this side. Don't know this side, so we look at this side, and we know that that is 1 1/4 inch. Right, so the living room would be 1 1/4 inch. Okay, that's the symbol for inches, would be 2 of those little apostrophes, and feet would be 1. So the drawing this is the living room, is 2 inches by 1 1/4 inch. And then our next question is, what is the actual length and width of the living room in feet? So the living room is 2 inches, and we know that the scale is 1 to 20, right? So that means that since 1 to 20, 1 being the inches, 20 being the feet, we need to find out, well, what's 2 inches? So we can just use our giant 1 to 2, and that would give us a measurement of 40. Right, so that means that the length is 40 feet. And then the width, since we know this is 25, we know this is 25 as well. 25 feet. Okay, so this is the living room in actual feet is 25 feet by 40 feet. Okay, so the next question, if the family wants to lay carpet in the living room and the carpeting costs $1.25 per square foot, how much will the carpet cost? So if they're talking about square feet, we know that they're talking about area. So the living room, we need to find what is the area of that living room. And so the area of the living room would be, we know that this is a rectangle, so base times height. Base is 40, and then the height is 25. So that would be 40 times 25. All right, so that would give us 1,000 square feet. So if this is 1,000 square feet, $1.25 per square foot, we would need to multiply that by $1.25. And that gives us $1,250 for the carpeting of the living room. Right, the area would be 1,000 square feet. All right, so that's how we deal with scale factor. Now, the next one, we're going to practice a little bit of drawing something to scale. So Tess made a sketch of her room and added some quick measurements. So this is her quick sketch, and she added those measurements. This is what the measurements of her room. That's 6 feet, 3 feet, 2 feet, 5 feet, and so on. And what we need to do is, if the grid represents square feet, and what that means is, let's look at this little box right here, this little square. That is a 1 foot by 1 foot square. Okay, so that's a foot. Each one of these distances is a foot. Draw an accurate scale drawing of her room. So it's obviously not going to look like this because this was a quick scale. Okay, and everything's going to be a rectangle, and all measurements are in feet. So first thing you want to do is, let's just pick a corner and start there. So we know that from this corner of the room to there is 6 feet. So we can start here and just go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet. And then 2 more feet, which is the length of the dresser. This is the 2 from here to here. And then we have 5 feet from the dresser to that wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so here's where that up top corner goes. And then this room has a overall length of 13 feet. So let's go 13 feet. That's 5, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, and then since it's a rectangle, we know that this bottom base is also 13 feet. So now this is her bed, which is 1 foot from this wall. So that means we're going to mark this 1 foot from the wall. And then the length of her bed is 6 feet. The width of her bed is 4 feet. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this is a rectangle, so we're going to go 6 again. Okay, so there's the measurements. And now we're just going to enclose this to make it look a little bit more like a bedroom. Okay, so there's the bed. Now we just need to draw the dresser. The dresser has a length of 3 feet. So after the 6 feet, I'm going to go out 3. 1, 2, 3. And we know the dresser has a width of 2. Okay, so as you can tell, this is what the bedroom is really going to look like. This is drawn to scale. Okay, this is to scale, which means that it is an exact model of what the room is going to look like. Obviously, the room does not look like this. The dresser doesn't look like that. The bed doesn't look like that. So this is a actual scale model. So looking at that last question, it's kind of similar to the first one. Hake's planning a vegetable garden, and he's created a scale drawing. Here's a scale drawing. The actual area of the tomatoes will be 12 feet by 9 feet. So let's go ahead and mark those. Here's the tomatoes. 12 by 9. Which one is the 12? Which one is the 9? All right, so obviously this is the 12 feet. And then this one would be the 9 feet. And all angles are right angles. So what scale did he use? So our scale factor, remember, is copy to original. So the copy would be the 2 or the 12. We know the copy is the 2, and the original is the 12. Okay, so if we go copy over original, we know that it would be 2 to 12, which reduces to 1 to 6. So what that means overall is that 1 inch equals 6 feet. Okay, so this is going to be our scale. 1 inch equals 6 feet. Here's our scale factor, 1 to 6, or 2 to 12. So if the horizontal length, horizontal, remember, goes this way, of the zucchini plot is shown in the diagram as 2.5. So let's go ahead and label that. So this is 2.5 inches. Then what is the area of the real vegetable garden? So we need to find this area of the whole garden. So we already know that this is 9 feet. We just need to know what this is in actual distance, right? We know that this is 12, so we have the height, we just don't have the base. So how do we find out this entire distance? Well, we already know that this is 1.5 inches, and this is 2.5 inches. We're going to have to add those two. So 1.5 times 2.5. So since this is a decimal, this is a fraction, we can go ahead and make them both decimals. So this is 2.5 inches. So now we have 2.5 and 1.5, which will make the entire distance, this is going to be 4 inches. Okay, now we need to find the actual length, because the real vegetable garden, that's going to be in feet. So we know that the height is 12 inches. I'm sorry, the height is 12 feet. We need to find out how many feet is this. So we know the scale is 1 to 6. That's inches to feet. And we know that this is 4 inches. So we're trying to find out in feet. So we're going to use the giant 1, and that gives us 24 feet. So 4 inches is equal to 24 feet. So now 24 feet and 12 feet, we now need to find the area of that vegetable garden, and we have all the information. So area is 12 by 24, which is equal to 288 square feet.